You know something is wrong when an American Affidavit of Probable Cause. Part 11. Going Forward. The Indian answer. What to do when they have the guns and clubs. Show their violent, dishonorable, and criminal nature to the world, then let the world take care of the problem and clean your own house. The principle of non-aggression, non-violent protest and objection. Labor strikes and work stoppages, boycotts of products, payments, and manufacturers, peaceful demonstrations, marches, occupations, and educational efforts, refusal to obey illegal licensing, registration, taxation, and control, refusal to enforce unlawful orders, refusal to operate outside lawful jurisdiction, operation of lawful county governments, operation of lawful state governments, operation of lawful grand juries, courts, and enforcement agencies, including citizens' arrest. The Icelandic answer. The tiny country of Iceland found itself in a similar crux. Their answer? Arrest the bankers responsible, issue new national currency, and go on. It was just that simple, and the rest of the world both understood and applauded their actions. The power of no. Many people have the understandable impulse to go out and express rage over what has been done to them and in their names, but any violence only plays into the hands of those guilty of these crimes. They have the guns and the tanks and the tasers and the clubs. They also presume to have the moral authority and responsibility to stop rebellion and insurrection. Moreover, they get paid out of your pockets for doing so. We must literally be gentle as doves and wise as serpents. Remember that these Babylonian usurpers worship duality. For their process to work, there has to be a black and a white, a Republican and a Democrat, a Christian and a Muslim, a pillar and a post. Without duality, they can't function, and their entire system grinds to a halt. Without duality and mere images and semantic deceit, they can no longer confuse the issues and the people. They can't divide and conquer. The correct and only strategy that works against them is precisely that employed not so long ago by Gandhi, nonviolent non-cooperation. They say you have to pay income taxes? No, you don't. They say you have to have a driver's license to travel from point to point. No, you don't. They say you have to buy health insurance from them. No, you don't. They say you have to obey and pay for enforcing 80 million laws. No, you don't. They say you have to register your private property, including your children. No, you don't. They didn't create you. They don't own you. You are not their employee. By what authority do they address you and demand that you do anything at all? So long as you are not harming anyone or damaging property, they have no right to even speak to you unless spoken to. When did you knowingly, willingly, and under conditions of full disclosure sign any contract subjecting your will to theirs? When and where did you give them consent to charge their debts to your account? Ask them. Drag them into the open air and make them show you the contract obligating you. If they say the Constitution, ask which Constitution, which state. Ask them to show you your signature on the document in question. Be tough-minded, polite, and determined, remembering always that most of the people involved in implementing this system have no idea that they are doing anything wrong. Show them mercy in their ignorance and educate them. Help them understand to the extent possible. In this way, we dismantle and undermine the system of duality from the ground up. When we stop thinking in terms of us versus them, and black versus white, and Republican versus Democrat, and Christian versus Muslim, and American versus Iranian, we deprive the criminals among us of their power to manipulate and control and feed upon us. We must recognize that there is one human family, one planet, one sea, one global jurisdiction of the air, and that all true law among all men can be reduced down to 3 simple precepts. Keep the peace. Love others as you would be loved. Do no harm. By honoring these simple natural laws, We put an end to the endless conflicts and criminality. We protect ourselves and everyone else from being used as instruments of evil. We end the system of duality and enslavement without firing a shot. The number one national security risk: ignorance. That's right. Our most urgent security concern is our own ignorance. That is what makes us vulnerable and a prey to monsters. Except for ignorance, not one of the deceits exposed here would last as long as a snowball in the sun. The perpetrators wouldn't even try to foist off their ploys. We'd know better, so they'd know better, and we could all get on with doing our jobs in life. So why are we ignorant? Cause 1. Public schools operated outside local control. To paraphrase Malcolm X, only a fool lets his enemies educate his children. While the federal government is not supposed to be our enemy, it is a foreign entity with its own axes to grind. The current state of ignorance about our government, treaties, laws, and history is the result of federal-state franchises taking over education and more federal encroachment into the education process. The result has been inexorable dumbing down of the American people so as to more readily manipulate and control and defraud us. Cause 2. Over the last 2 decades, thousands of American news media outlets have been brought up and placed under new management, with the result that only 6 corporations and 272 executives control 90% of the media, television, radio, and newspapers. This leads to monopoly conditions in the marketplace and the boring sameness that we are all too familiar with. Worse, all 6 of these major media corporations are foreign-owned. As above, only a fool lets his media resources be owned and operated by foreigners. The number 2 national security risk: mercenary armies disguised as government agencies. Over the course of the Obama administration, there has been an insane buildup and stockpiling of arms on American soil by federal agencies. As you know now, these agencies are only service providers, corporate subcontractors, not legitimate public agencies at all. In buying billions with a B of rounds of ammunition for these agencies, including BATF, IRS, FEMA, FBI, NSA, DHS, and a general proliferation in the number of agencies, the Obama administration has been, in effect, creating commercial mercenary armies in our midst. Federal employees are not allowed to have the free run of the land jurisdiction, and they are certainly not allowed to be armed and swaggering around in paramilitary style. This includes state and local police forces, which are in fact all employed under the corporate umbrella. The only federal agents allowed free egress on the state soil are the U.S. Marshals, and only when they are sworn to uphold the Constitution for the United States of America and in pursuit of their duty to protect the U.S. mail, period. The number 3 national security risk: bar associations run as criminal cartels. Instead of functioning as they should to promote and enforce high professional and ethical standards, the bar associations have forced their members to commit personage and barratry against the American people, and have used these means to plunder both public and private assets. We have held these private institutions in ill-deserved esteem, and have misplaced the public trust in them to operate according to the treaties and charters which allow them to exist on our shores. Clearly, they have operated as criminal syndicates and deserve to be permanently outlawed. About your rulership. There seems to be a need for new answers, even if those new answers are very old answers. The Bible and the Hindu Vedas and American Indian wisdom tradition all tell us that our purpose in life is to find truth and to take care of the planet. Should it surprise us, then, when we do other things we are unhappy and alienated and unfulfilled? In our heart of hearts, we know what we should be doing and how we should be living, and aren't. We need to change that. We cannot own land. We come from the land and we return to it. All pretensions otherwise, whether individual or corporate, are merely lies. At most, we have the right to enjoy the fruits of our own labors, and those homes and other improvements we make for ourselves and our heirs. In the same way, we cannot claim to be better than anyone else on account of strength, or wealth, or religion, or creed, or color, or sex, or age, or beauty, or occupation. There are many flowers in the garden. Who is to say that the king is any better or any happier than his housekeeper? That the work of the man who cleans the toilets is any less important than that of an astronaut? Then, too, who knows the mystery of our individual souls? Each one of us has our own hand-tailored blessings and our individual grief and our own lessons to learn. The sooner we learn to recognize our own blessings and stop chasing after or stealing or simply retaining through ignorance those blessings that belong to others, the happier we will be and the happier our planet will be. If something isn't yours, give it away, set it free, because only then will your hands be free to grasp the blessings that are yours and which will give you lasting joy. If you don't use a tool, give it to someone who will. Those jewels you hoarded away in a dark box, what good are they and what joy can they bring if they never see the light of day? The song in your heart that you stifle because you think it is not good enough? Sing it anyway. Artists are like songbirds. If you have it left in you to see the beauty, or ears left to hear the song, then you are not dead and never will be. Open your eyes, look around, take a deep breath. Who is in control of your world if you are not? When you see the orphans or the homeless animals or the ruined farm fields, it's not somebody else's problem, it's yours. When you see criminals preying upon the helpless and the innocent, it's not someone else's responsibility to stop them, it's yours. Don't ever think that you can't do whatever you need to do to change your own life or to change the world. Each one of you are literally kings and queens. It's only because you have abdicated your own throne that the world is the sorry, disjointed, unfair, and ugly place that it is. It is up to you to make other choices and dream other dreams. A crown for every occasion. Just in case you have any doubts, here's what the Supreme Court says about your sovereignty. First Amendment rights are indeed fundamental, for we the people are the sovereigns, not those who sit in the seats of the mighty. Sovereigns are equal. It is the duty of a sovereign not to submit his rights to the decision of a co-sovereign. He is the sole arbiter of his own rights. He acknowledges no superior but God alone. To his equals he shows respect, but not submission. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to law, for it is the author and source of law. But in our system, while sovereign powers are delegated to the agencies of government, sovereignty itself remains with the people, by whom and for whom all government exists and acts. We acknowledge that the immunity of a truly independent sovereign from suit in its own courts has been enjoyed as a matter of absolute right for centuries. Only the sovereign's own consent could qualify the absolute character of that immunity. That the notion that immunity from suit is an attribute of sovereignty is reflected in our cases, and that this explanation adequately supports the conclusion that no sovereign may be sued in its own courts without its consent. Chief Justice Jay took a less vehement tone in his opinion, but he too denied the applicability of the doctrine of sovereign immunity to the states. He explained the doctrine as an incident of European feudalism, and said that by contrast, no such ideas obtained here. At the Revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they are truly the sovereigns of the country, but they are sovereigns without subjects, unless the African slaves among us may be so called, and have none to govern but themselves. The citizens of America are equal as fellow citizens and as joint tenants in the sovereignty. So you are sovereign, and the Supreme Court agrees. Just be aware, you can't be sovereign and a citizen at the same time. The term sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. Those who use this label are either ignorant or insulting, and you are neither one. Rules of rulership. 1. You control what you consume. You don't have to ingest garbage media presentations of any kind, including the evening news. You don't have to eat bad food, drink fluoridated water, take drugs just because they are prescribed by a man in a white coat, buy a new car because a car company thinks it's time to upgrade, drink alcohol, smoke, or do anything else that profits something or someone else at your expense. 2. You control what you believe. You have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a brain, and a built-in shinola sensor. If your government, church, mosque, synagogue, gang, or club of any kind preaches violence, practices deceit, promotes slavery, or otherwise violates common sense and decency, it's time to vote with your feet and stop empowering that group. 3. You control how you react. You can't always control circumstances around you, and you can never control what some other individual thinks, does, or feels. But you are always in absolute control of how you react. You don't have to allow manipulation or your emotions or your responses control you. You can step back and choose how you are going to interpret your reality. 4. You control your focus. You choose who and what you give your attention to. Governments and news media are constantly trying to scare you and browbeat you into buying whatever they are selling. However, you have the ability to turn them off and focus on what matters to you. By choosing positive things to focus on, and by focusing on things that you control directly, like eating nutritious food, brushing your teeth, reading a good book, growing a garden, playing a musical instrument, taking a walk in the park, you increase your joy in life and gain a better understanding of your ability to rule yourself and your world. 5. You control what you value. You have the ability to discern what really matters to you and what doesn't. Do you give a rat's butt who wins the Grammy Awards this year? Really? It's okay either way. We are all different. Just realize that you have the conscious ability to determine what matters to you and the equal ability to act accordingly. 6. You control what you accept. You don't have to say yes to anything, ever. The world offers you all sorts of deals, good and bad. It's up to you to decide what you will accept and what you will reject. The more self-respect and self-knowledge you possess, the better. 7. You control what you cherish for the future. This is part of what you value, of course, but on a larger scale. It's up to you to envision what kind of world you want to pass on to your children, and take the steps to make sure that that is the kind of world you pass on. The words of and for. About now, there are a bunch of people feeling like their heads are going to explode. There are those staggering around with both hands over their ears in a tragic state of denial, and there are those who are nodding with a knowing, disgusted look. There are predictable stages of waking up. The first stage involves retraining your mind to realize with certainty that those people in Washington, D.C. who you elected in good faith to fill public offices as deputies representing your state don't represent your state on the land, and most certainly don't represent you. They are corporate officers of a commercial corporation under contract to provide governmental services. They have the same limitations and motivations as any other corporate executives. The fact that they do precious little that is good for you has probably reared its ugly head many times before, but now you know for sure that it is literal and true. They are in Washington, D.C. to serve themselves, not the public. They are participating in a foreign government, in a foreign jurisdiction, and that is all there is to it. They aren't your Congress, and within your lifetime, they never were. It is all smoke, mirrors, and fraud. Baloney, shinola. Calling an orange a kumquat doesn't change a thing in actual fact. If you vote for them in any of their corporate elections, you contractually hand over your authority to them to exercise it as they please without accountability to you. You also give them another excuse to claim that you are a citizen of the federal United States instead of the continental United States, and therefore subject to them and chattel belonging to their corporation, obligated to pay whatever debts they obligate you to pay without question, no less. We've been dumbed down so long we don't even know what our real flag looks like, but now you do. The continental United States are at peace, and you should be flying this flag instead of the Stars and Stripes if you are a state citizen. This is the civil peacetime flag of the United States. Purchase a hard copy of this book at Amazon.com or download a free PDF copy at states.americanstatenationals.org. Click on the red Education tab at the top right of the page. You will find it here.